Happy Halloween 2018. Oh, we just slipped back into the woods here and moved a stand. We're on a real small private piece of property I got access to this year. It's behind some houses, but it butts up to a really big piece of property. And I hung this stand in this finger of timber that juts out into a really large CRP field. And I have a really good feeling about it. It just feels really good. It's beautiful colors out here, right? Sometimes you just kind of get lost in how beautiful it is out here. This time of year, all the colors have changed. There's nowhere I'd rather be than right here. So we have an empty freezer right now, so I'm not going to be very choosy if we get a shot of something within a range. Probably take the shot. I can't wait to enjoy this beautiful dreary. It rained this morning. It's real dreary, overcast. I'm gonna guess it's probably 50 degrees. My favorite deer hunting conditions. Overcast, dreary, and Halloween. What more can you ask for? Now we have some fresh rubs right next to our stand here, so let's see what we can do.
I began a rattling sequence with a few grunts, and it didn't take but a few seconds, and a large-bodied and mature buck. I saw his rack kind of appear out of this grass. He's hugging that far tree line, entering into the woods, looking for the two bucks that I was emulating fighting. If you look at the top right of your screen, the buck is right behind a tree, and his head and shoulders are just to the left of one of the trunks of trees in the top right of your frame. This buck knows he heard two bucks fighting, but he knows he should see, some deer, and he knows something's not right. And there's a deep ravine between me and this buck is standing out there about 45 yards. And I really didn't want to shoot this far, but this buck is just, he's old enough and smart enough to know that if there were two bucks in here fighting, he'd be able to see him. So he's really hesitant to come any further. He just knows something's not right, but he's not really on high alert. He's just looking for the two bucks he came in to chase off. Now this buck, he stands here for around 10 minutes in real time, which if you've ever had an encounter with a deer that takes forever, I mean, it feels like an eternity. So I kind of fast forward through this little encounter because, like I said, it was 10 minutes of him just standing there, looking around, trying to figure out what was going on. at this point I had concluded that this deer isn't coming any closer, and it's at any minute this buck's going to turn around and head right back where he came from. So I draw back and I take the shot.
Well, as you saw, we just shot a buck. I was so shaken up, it was unbelievable. My heart was about to pound out of my chest. The shot was forward. We got a full pass through. I don't feel confident, so I'm backing out. Got a full pass through, like I said, but I'm not confident with that shot. We're gonna have to back out and see what happens and look at this shot on a bigger screen. Luckily, it was in the frame. It was in frame somehow, so we're gonna back out. I'm really shook up.
So after getting back to the house, I plugged my camera in and I looked at the shot a little closer, and obviously I knew what had happened. I'd made a shot that was just way too far forward. After kind of shooting my bow a little more, it was shooting a little left, so it makes sense. When I looked at the weather, usually I would have backed out for overnight at least, but I looked at the weather and we had a ton of rain coming in just within the near few hours. So I rushed back out there, got on the blood trail, and there was a lot of blood. I found my arrow, and I trailed this deer over onto a neighboring piece of property, which is kind of where it gets interesting, because I talked to the landowner that I was hunting on. He was under the impression that the property that he went on to, nobody hunted it, and the landowner was really cool about, he wouldn't mind. So, and I was on a time crunch because of this rainstorm, so I went over there and trailed this deer for 300-400 yards out of the timber and then out into a CRP field where I lost the blood. And it started raining. I had to turn back after I'd lost the blood, and I got back home. And the next morning I called the landowner, and then come to realize and find out that it was actually being leased by a couple of guys from New York, and I felt really bad because I had just stumbled and been trampling through that property, right in prime time, on Halloween. So he ended up giving me their phone number, and I called the guy who was leasing it, and he was just so happened to be on his way from New York to hunt the property for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I called him and I talked to him and told him about what happened, and I apologized. I told him I didn't know that anybody hunted here. I wouldn't have just went on and trailed this deer. He was really cool about it, appreciated my honesty, and basically I ended with me just telling him, hey, just keep an eye out. You never know. I was under the impression I didn't kill the deer. It looked like a brisket shot to me, which they bleed a lot, but there's just no vital organs up there. So he told me to keep an eye, and I went back up north and hunted our family lease, and I ended up taking a beautiful mature buck with my bow on November the 4th. And while I was out there, I received a picture from one of the guys that hunts the property. He sent me a picture of a buck all eaten up by coyotes. It was within eyesight of one of his tree stands, and he sent me this picture, and my heart just jumped out of my chest. It was my buck. He had died not too far from where I lost the blood, and I'll attach some of the photos. One of them's pretty graphic because the body is just all eaten up by coyotes. It had been out there for about 4 days, and they were gracious enough and kind enough to allow me to come and retrieve the buck. They took me to it, and we ended up taking him out. Unfortunately, where obviously the meat wasn't salvageable, which is a real bummer, but I was able to recover the rack and ended up getting a cape to mount the deer with. So it was quite a story. I'll also attach some pictures of the other buck that I was able to take. Didn't get footage of it, but ended up being a really good season.